Okay, bring the next witness online, please.
Sir, can you please?
Right,
yes.
Thank you. This is great. Okay. Okay.
Sir, can you hear me? Can you hear me, sir?
Okay, great. Can you hear us?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good.
Good morning.
Good morning. For the record, please state your name and the position you hold in your organization.
My name is Jānis Bērziņš. I am the director of the Center for Security and Strategic Research at the National Defense Academy, Latvia. I am a senior researcher at the Potomac Foundation in Washington, D.C., and a senior researcher at the Institute for the Study of New Generation Warfare, also in Washington, D.C.
Thank you. The evidence which you will be giving today before the committee will be taken on affirmation. The clerk will now administer the affirmation.
Please raise your right hand. Please repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Jānis Bērziņš,
Do solemnly,
do solemnly,
sincerely,
sincerely,
and truly declare and affirm
and truly declare and affirm
that the evidence
that the evidence
which I shall give before this committee
shall
be the truth,
the whole truth,
and nothing but the truth.
and nothing but the truth.
Thank you. Please lower your hand.
Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome to the public hearing on the Select Committee on Deliberate Online Falsehoods. The focus of today's evidence...
Thank you very much, sir.
The focus of today's evidence gathering session is for us to put questions to you. You have taken a solemn obligation to answer our questions truthfully, and I will now call on Ms. Rahayu to ask a question, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning, Dr. Bērziņš. Thank you for joining us. How we will proceed is that I will go through the submissions that you have submitted, the representations that you have submitted, and we will confirm the key items so as to put the key items on record, and subsequently my colleagues may wish to seek some clarifications. Yes.
Okay.
So I understand that the area of work that you do relates to the issues of hybrid warfare, Russian military thoughts, and strategic and security issues. Will that be right?
Correct, yes.
Yeah. You have a copy of your representation before you?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. May I refer you to page 1 and paragraph 1 of that page? You mentioned that the influence operations are used to achieve specific strategic objectives. The battleground, so to speak, is a perception war in cyberspace and the human mind, and the method is to target a state's existing inner socio-cultural decay and to exploit it. Would that be a correct summary?
Yes, it's a correct summary, yes.
Yes. And further, you say that the political, economic, information, technological, and ecological influence campaigns result in asymmetric warfare being the natural state of affairs. That would be correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Moving on to paragraph 2, you also express that security for any country requires that information systems be secure and citizens be willing to defend their country cognitively. And this is because any military... This is because any military campaign requires that both military and non-military, including the psychological and informational elements, must be present to succeed. Is that correct?
Is that correct?
Yes. Then at paragraph 3, I think this is the statement that you make, that the people's minds are therefore the main battle space in modern warfare.
Yes,
And
that's true.
Information and psychological wars are conducted to reduce the morale of an enemy's armed forces and civilian population. You say that this reduces the need to deploy hard military power. Would that be correct?
Yes, it is correct.
Moving on to paragraph 4, you say that social media, the almost absolute freedom of information and people's appetite for conspiracy theories mean that everything and nothing is true at the same time.
Yes.
And at page 2, if I may move on to page 2, at the first paragraph at page 2, you describe a 5-fold strategy that can be used to conduct information and psychological warfare.
Yes.
Allow me to summarize this. First, all means are used to support the unlawful activity of selected groups in society, including extremist, nationalist, religious or separatist movements, and other organizations seeking to harm the unity of a country. Second, taking purposeful action to support subversive forces. Third, attacks against a country's social and ideological systems. Fourth, a surreptitious and spontaneous penetration of a state's governance system with a view to self-destruct and self-annihilate. And lastly, the key target is to impact the population's self-awareness. That would be correct?
That's correct. And you can call it, in reality, just adding, you can call it the strategy of controlled chaos.
Controlled chaos.
Yes.
That's right. So paragraph 2 of the same page, you say that an opponent state finds it easier to achieve its objectives if the society of the state being attacked believes that the country is a failed state. And you further add that, there are 9 main objectives that a state wants to achieve with influence operations. And these include encouraging separatist actions, polarizing the society and its elite, stimulating social political crisis, inciting panic with a loss of confidence in key government institutions. That would be accurate?
Yes.
And at paragraph 3...
sorry, there is a typo. I'm reading this. This is in item 2. It is, you can took out the Russian interests. So it is towards the attacker's interests, not the Russian interests. I'm sorry for that.
All right, I note the amendment. So paragraph point 2 should state polarize the elite and society, resulting in a crisis of values, followed by process of reality orientation to values aligned towards the attacker's interests.
Yes.
All right, we'll take note of that. And then at paragraph 3, you end off there by saying that these methods succeed.
Sorry, sorry to interrupt you.
Sure.
The same applies to point number 8. It is the defamation of political leaders not aligned with the attacker's interests, not Russian interests, obviously.
Noted. So the defamation of political leaders not aligned with attackers' interests.
Yes, thank you.
May I just repeat that at paragraph 3 then, at the end, you say that these methods succeed when people are less able to express dissatisfaction with the system, thus forcing them to exit. And this can manifest by people becoming isolated from the political, economic, cultural, and social system of the country. Would that be accurate?
Yes, the idea, maybe let me elaborate a little bit on that. The idea is that I'm quoting the work of the German, the late German economist Albert Hirschman, and he developed the idea of exit. So he started at the micro level and he went to the macro level. So the main idea it is that at the micro level, how the market works, exit is how the market works. You don't like a product, you don't buy it. You don't write a letter or or you don't complain vocally. But at the political level, exit, it is a form of isolation. It is a form of not voicing your concerns, be it by voting, be it by taking part, participating on the political process, and so on. And Hirschman said that for him, the most radical form of exit is immigration. You just leave the country. But I developed this idea further, and there is a form of exit, which is that physically the individual is living in like the country A, but politically, economically, emotionally, culturally, this individual is living somewhere else. So it is like I don't know. You have some people here in the Baltic states. They are physically living here, but they are emotionally, economically, because business is with other countries. So emotionally, politically, culturally, and so on. For example, attached to Russia. So they are physically living here, but all the other aspects is in all other aspects, this individual is connected to Russia, and this is a form of exit too.
I understand.
Quite dangerous, I would say, because there is the belief that this individual might be like a patriot citizen, like a man or woman ready to defend her country, but in reality, there is this form of exit, and the individual in reality is living non-physically, let's put it this way, in another country.
So does this disconnect with the country the person is living in? Is that right?
Yes.
And
disconnected.
Yeah, and I suppose this also relates to the point that you made in that paragraph about the how the voice is actually the basis for political participation, and therefore for the democratic system to work, the people must also be present emotionally, physically, and completely within the system. Would that be correct?
Yes. Yes, that's correct. Yes.
Understand. You also moved on to describing certain response strategies or countermeasures which should be undertaken.
Mm-hmm.
And at page 3, paragraph 2, you note that there needs to be an analysis and monitoring of the society's information environment and social resilience. Would that be right?
Yes.
And at paragraph 3, on the same page, you said that the government must strengthen the weak points and further solidify the strong parts of society to reduce foreign influence. You gave some examples. You said, for instance, you say there must be a system to monitor social media and to make social media providers responsible for removing falsehoods quickly, similar to the steps taken in Germany. You also suggest a need to enhance the critical thinking of the population government officials and politicians. And where a foreign influence operation is suspected, you suggest that the government must act preemptively to inform the population about the possibility of such an operation, and that there must also be a direct channel of communication between the government and the population through which public policy can be explained. Would you like to elaborate on that point?
This later point or all points?
Perhaps a summary of the points you made. Would you like to elaborate on any of the points I earlier summarized?
Okay. The idea is that you need to the first step it is to understand in what extent your country is vulnerable for this sort of operations, and because although this sort of because of technological development and so on, because of social media and internet, anyone can write anything on the internet. People are quite might be quite successful for such operations, but these operations will only work if there is ground for them. You can't, if the people in his or her, if an individual in his or her daily life sees something like it's his or her reality, it's quite difficult to convince this individual on the contrary, because he or she is seeing it. So, so at this level, these operations, they are quite difficult to convince people about different things from daily life. But what you can do, it is you have a greater agenda, and then you start using the techniques of influence operations to convince people of things they don't see. You see, for example, you lie patently. We have a case here, some cases here in Latvia that when we do target audience analysis to understand the extent of Russian influence in our population, a Russian narrative, it is that fascism is increasing here in the Baltics, what is a lie. And when we were asking people about this issue, like anti-fascism, is it increasing or not? And the answer is, well, I didn't have any contact in my life, but the press is saying, so it is a concern. But you see, the point it's limited because people are not seeing that. So, the first issue here, it is how influenceable people are. In order to understand how influenceable your own population is, in what extent, you need to make the target audience analysis. The target audience analysis will give you a full panorama of not only the extent of, not only how, in what extent your population is influenceable, first, but second, also, in what are the main issues that might be used, what are the social groups, the age groups, and why. And this is target audience analysis has been done. I can't disclose this information, but has been done by intelligence services in countries such Libya, Ukraine, and so on, and the results are very consistent, and the results were able to give a solid ground for neutralizing enemies, infops, psyops, and influence operations as finding ways to make people aware of this issue. So performing target audience analysis, it is fundamental. It is necessary to do that on an ongoing basis. I would say every 6 months or once a year, having like maybe it should be the case to have once a year a very deep target audience analysis, and then you just focus later on some specific points, but you need to have this capability. Now, enhancing the critical thinking, government officials and politicians. Well, the point is that each social group has its own, let's call it relative reality. And this means, and it is because maybe you're aware there is a theory that we are many persons in one time. You are one person when you're at home. You are another person when you are at your job, and so on. And the way you behave is and you behave differently because your institutional environment is different in each case. And these multiple personas, let's put it in this way, it's you, of course, but you're going to react differently depending of the environment of the environment you are. So the point is, usually you see, for example, group of tourists. There was a study once. There was an article. Okay, I forgot the name of the journal, and it was, for example, the behave in groups. I mean, and then you have, for example, one example were the Japanese. That one Japanese alone, it is very, let's say, very polite, very correct. One could say even shy. But you have a group of 20, they just it's the group. With the important thing is the group, and they might completely misbehave and so on. So the point is that because of that, because of this group behave, people might lose the critical thinking because the mechanism it is people will feel comfortable for accepting uncritically information and so on if others in the group are doing the same thing first. So this is one side. The other side it is that it is necessary to increase critical thinking about our own actions. And this, of course, it is about the population, but it is very much about government officials and politicians, at least in the West. Because the problem is, if you see how Western politicians and officials very much they are disconnected from the reality of the population, this makes them very much this makes them an easy target for criticism, lies, and so on. Because one of the tactics of any of these operations, it is spreading conspiracy theories. And then, if you have, for example, let me say, we have cases in the European Union that, for example, the European Parliament is voting for legislation, and they don't have a clue about how it will affect the common man. And they are all congratulating themselves by the great legislation they did, but they are not aware of the effects on people, for example.
So basically you're saying that if there is no real understanding of the issues on the ground, then there will be issues in terms of actually relating to the public, and that will cause some mistrust with the leadership.
Yes, absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
Okay, understand.
Absolutely. And there are other minor issues. For example, I like to joke when I see a big black Mercedes, like the limousine, right? Okay, it is financial market, the mafia, or a politician, like a
stereotypes.
You see, and it's not only me joking about that. So, but the question is, what is the image like the politician is passing? That like he's living in another world, like it is.
So, which is
right?
why I suppose
I'm not talking about politicians using public transport because of security concerns, but here. In the Baltics and in Scandinavia, for example, politicians walk to work, but in Brussels, you see, this gives a very bad.
So I suppose that is why you had
impression.
Also subsequently suggested that it's also important to create the channels of communication and make sure that there is increased direct participation of society in formulating public policy. That would be the summary and where you're leading towards. Yes. All right. Thank you very much.
But there is another there is another issue that must be stressed, I think. It is the use of PR. Because let's put in this way, because of this disconnection, many times government officials and the politicians here, they will use these public relations. So they are, in reality, it is also an information operation. And many times this it's not really about telling the truth. For example, a mistake. Someone made a mistake. Well, mistakes happen, right? So for me, the best way to do it is to go public and say, it was a mistake. I am sorry. We are working to solve the problem, and the mistake happened because of this and that, and so on. And then you tell people the truth. It happened. Sorry. But many guys here in in Europe, what they do, and the United States too, they will use PR and say, no, there is no mistake. You are wrong. It is like this, and try to impose some different interpretation about what happened, but people see what happens. You can't lie to people at that level, as I said before.
So
you can't use PR to create an alternative reality this way, and people get resentful, and the result it is that the confidence in institutions, in politicians and so on, just plumb, because people, they are lying all the time, and this is extremely I think it is extremely naive to do.
Thank you very much for your explanation. I trust that is the summary basically is that it's important to actually maintain that relation and build that trust with the leadership so as to avoid actually the reliance on the false information that's going around. Would that be a correct summary?
Well, not only false information, but one could say doctoring reality.
All right.
So for one actions to be in better light, let's put it this way.
All right. Thank you very much. I don't have any further questions. I'll pass it back to the chairman.
Minister Shanmugam, you have a few questions for the witness.
Good morning, Dr. Bērziņš.
Good morning, sir.
These big black Mercedes Benzes that you refer to, these are the stretch limousines?
Sorry, I didn't listen to you, sir.
This big black Mercedes Benzes that you refer to, you're talking about big black Mercedes Benzes that people drive in. Are these the
big black Mercedes Benz. Myself, I love them.
Oh,
by the way, great cars.
These are the stretch cars that you're referring to?
Yes.
Well, maybe we should consider getting one or two. I had a question for you on, you talked about the European Union, the European Parliament. They are divorced from the ground, not connected to the ground, and they pass laws. Are you talking about the general laws that come out from the European Union on a variety of topics?
Sorry, are you asking for specific examples?
No. I'm trying to understand what you were meaning when you referred to laws that the European Union passes.
No, this was only one example because, sorry, the same idea applies to local parliaments. It's not only the European Parliament.
Yes, you're talking in general about the
maybe the most radical example.
You're talking in general about the laws that they pass.
In general, yes, about the laws they pass. Let me give you a simple example from Latvia, if I may. The parliament passed a law about the volume bars and nightclubs are allowed to have.
This is the Latvian Parliament or the European Parliament?
Well, it is based on a directive of the European Parliament, and then we took the law here in Latvia. And the fact is that by law, following the law, I can't call the police and complain. It's too loud. I can't sleep. Well, I can do that, but the police is going to answer me. Well, we need to check it. And hello.
Hello, we can hear you.
Hello.
Please carry on.
Okay, so, and then the result of the law is that in technical terms, the law is perfect because I might be complaining just because I don't like the place. So someone has to let's say, scientifically to measure the noise at my flat, if it is really of concern or not. Well, the law is perfect. It is a good law. When you go to the enforcement level, the operational level, nobody has the instrument how to measure it. There is no budget, like they forgot, not the parliament, but the civil servants, they forgot to allocate budget for buying it or for outsourcing it. And the result is that if I call the police is going to tell me, sorry, we can do anything. So it is a sort of law that everybody's angry about. But the law is perfect in technical terms.
Thank you.
And then I asked some members of the parliament, who are my personal friends, why did you pass the law? And they say, well, but the law is good, isn't it? It's perfect. Yes, it is, but go to the ground to see what what are the real effects.
Thank you. It's a lesson for all of us.
This is only one example.
Right. Thank you very much,
This is only one
Dr.
example.
Bērziņš. Yes.
My pleasure, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. As there are no further questions, I would like to thank you for participating in this thing and your very interesting submission. Okay. We'll be sending you a transcript of today's events. If there are any corrections, please do the corrections and send it back to us. Once again, thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay, I propose we take a 15-minute break now before we get the next witness on. Okay, I adjourn the meeting and we will be back here in 15 minutes' time. Thank you.